us through the process. You are a constitutionalist, an expert on the Supreme Court. How does this work in terms of the federal court system with these lawsuits pending?
Well, we've seen multiple lawsuits already filed. I expect there will be more lawsuits filed, probably in each of those states that I mentioned and maybe more. We may well see cases filed both in state court and in federal court. We will have trials on the matters that are contested. And the purpose of a trial is to hear evidence. We're hearing lots of allegations of a dead person voted. We heard a report from one county in Michigan where the election software mistakenly counted 6,000 votes that were cast for Donald Trump. It switched them to Joe Biden. Now, they apparently caught that, but that same software is used in 47 counties throughout Michigan. That needs to be examined to determine that there's not a problem counting the votes. And the legal process is how you resolve those questions. You know, one of the frustrating things, just as an American watching this, is you hear all these allegations of what's going on. And it's hard to know what the facts are. It's hard to know what the truth is. Well, we have a process for ascertaining the truth, which is that you can go and present evidence and test it in a court of law, and then those appeals will go up both through the state appellate system and the federal appellate system. And this case could very easily end up at the U.S. Supreme Court. You know, you mentioned Bush versus Gore, which I was part of representing then Governor George W. Bush. In the course of 36 days, we had multiple cases throughout the state of Florida. It went twice to the Florida Supreme Court. It went twice to the U.S. Supreme Court. It took 36 days to resolve, and we got an answer. I would expect a similar process to play out here, despite the media trying to tell everyone, give up, go home, we know who we want to win. That's not how it works. We need to follow the law, and that means allowing the legal process to play out. December 8th is what's called the safe harbor deadline, which is that any contest election before that, if it's resolved, that resolution is presumed valid. So the federal statute anticipates that there are going to be contests, there are going to be recounts. And here's one dynamic that's important to understand. You know, particularly in this COVID time, this has been a strange election. On Election Day, Donald Trump won a large majority of the votes counted on Election Day. That was true throughout the country. With mail-in votes that were early votes, Joe Biden won a significant majority of the mail-in votes that came in. Now, in several states, we're going to see a recount process. A recount process, you look at those votes, you determine if they're accurate, if they're fraudulent, if they have sufficient signatures, if they meet the statutory standards for a legal vote. What is interesting is historically, mail-in votes are much more likely to be disqualified in a recount than in-person votes. Generally, in-person votes, they're conducted at the polling place and they usually stand. That means what we're likely to see in the next few weeks as the recounts go forward is that Joe Biden's very, very narrow majorities in some of these states, those totals are likely to drop if we see mail-in votes when they're examined being invalidated as contrary to the law. And so we could easily see, I believe President Trump still has a path to victory, and that path is to count every single legal vote that was cast, but also not to cast any votes that were fraudulently cast or illegally cast. And we have a legal process to determine what's legal and what isn't.